To increase the pool of recruits and reduce risk, we introduced a probationary period for new recruits last December. This allows now applicants to enroll and begin training while their administrative work is completed. During this probationary period, applicant must pass the required security clearance check, meet medical standards, and show that they live by the Canadian Armed Forces ethos and values. Those who don't meet these requirements will be released as soon as possible. It means faster in, but also a faster out.
Welcome to Occam's Razor. Please like, share, subscribe. It helps to grow the channel. And if you have any tips, please leave them down below. There's an email. There's also something there for other tips if you'd like to leave them. Now, what you saw at the beginning was back in February when the Canadian Armed Forces was once again trying to tweak its recruiting process. Let's get into that. So back after the COVIDity stupidity, and they released 10% of the Canadian Armed Forces because they refused to get injected with the jibby jab, this is what they had to do. They released a directive for CAF Reconstitution. And among its priorities, owing to personnel and staffing issues that have been compounded by the CAF's heavy commitment to operations, the negative effects of COVID-19 pandemic, and a culture crisis, national defense continues to lose its ability to deliver and sustain concurrent operations at the scope and scale necessary to achieve strategic effects. Oh, too bad you released 10% of your people. So, at that point, let's see how things progressed. How did it progress? Well, they had to release Directive 002. And what happened there? Even with more than 18 months of concerted effort and the implementation of significant changes in the recruitment process, the CAF continues to be challenged with respect to attracting recruits and meeting its objectives defined in the strategic intake plan and retaining members in certain rank occupation combinations. Well, so they tried to bring in more people and people weren't biting. I wonder why. Could it be because the Canadian Armed Forces was getting a bad reputation? Let's see what happened next. Well, a new probationary period was implemented as part of their new recruitment process. And what does that new probationary period include? Well, it includes recommendations for the CAF to establish a probationary period to ensure that problematic attitudes on culture and gender-based issues are assessed and promptly dealt with, including early release. Early release, just like we heard them at the beginning, right? And when they say gender-based issues, what are they talking about? Well, they are talking about GBA plus. What is GBA plus, do you think? Well, this was brought in before I got out of the forces, and this was their first boiling the frog very slowly, introducing this GBA plus at the time. It was a survey, you had to take it, and when you read it, you could obviously tell that this was not geared towards the military. This was geared towards the public service, towards civilians working in a civilian environment. This was not designed for the military to use in a warrior culture environment. Nonetheless, GA Plus is now a requirement for every single person that joins the military and have to keep applied annually. This is just all the additional training that they keep giving people in the forces, eating away their work time when they have to keep up on all these new ideological initiatives. So let's have a quick look and see what that GBA Plus is.
Create appropriate mitigation strategies. Let's start at the beginning. What makes you who you are? Is it your age? Your ethnic background? Where you live? It's all of this and more. These are called identity factors. Sex and gender are two identity factors that are the starting points for GBA+. The terms sex and gender are often used interchangeably, but they are actually separate concepts. Sex refers to a set of biological attributes and is associated with physical and physiological features. Sex is usually categorized as female or male, but there is variation in biological attributes and how those attributes are expressed. Gender, on the other hand, refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identities of individuals. Gender helps determine how people perceive themselves and each other, and how they act and interact. It can even have an impact on how power and resources are distributed in a society. We all have multiple identity factors that intersect to make us who we are. This is called intersectionality. The plus in gender-based analysis plus acknowledges that GBA goes beyond sex and gender. It examines how sex and gender intersect with other identities such as race, ethnicity, religion, age, or mental or physical disability. Use GBA Plus to examine all the intersecting identity factors of diverse groups of people so that you can be more inclusive in your approach to developing, delivering, and evaluating initiatives. Visit Status of Women Canada and check out our demystifying.
So now you've seen what GBA Plus is. As you can see, Women's Council, developed by, not for the military. And can you imagine? This is the ideology that they are pushing upon people that they want sitting in a trench, defending your values, being representatives of Canada under strict guidance and training, act professionally, as long as they follow the GBA plus. So what other recruiting initiatives did they need to do? Well, they needed to ensure that learning disability accommodation during recruit training and education was available. That's right. Recruiting is so pitiful in the Canadian Armed Forces that not only are they bringing in landed immigrants that are not citizens of this nation, they have to now make accommodations for people that have issues ahead of time. They have to make accommodations for people that are unhealthy. This is the state of the Canadian Armed Forces today, where we are bringing in people to defend this nation that can barely take care of themselves. Why is that a problem? To have learning disability accommodation during recruiting, training, and education. See, they had to make their own DOAD for it. We didn't have this before. This is a liberal invention. Yes, accommodating learning disability in the Canadian Armed Forces is a liberal invention. So here we have understanding and apply the use of force continuum. Being able to understand and apply the use of force continuum, this encompasses defense and offensive uses of force employed in a military context. Do you want somebody with a learning disability to be employed in the use of force? That, at any time they just crack up and not follow orders? Doesn't seem like a really good idea. Not at all. Now, when we look at the total number of the Canadian Armed Forces that they want to achieve, 71,500 regular members. We're less than 65,000 now. 30,000 primary reservists. We're just above 17,000 right now. And how do they think they want to? Why do they want to do this? Well, they want to do this because they need this 3-to-1 deployment rotation. Now, this 3-to-1 deployment rotation is only mentioned in one document, and that is the reports on the North Strong and Free. I guess it's the Minister of National Defense at the time, Bill Blair, published this along with the CDS and Melanie Joly at the time, who was our Foreign Affairs Minister, stating what their version of whatever you might call a white paper is basically what they put in here. There's a lot of promises, all the stuff that they want to buy, all the stuff that they've delivered so far, which most of the stuff had been purchased by the Conservatives prior to the Liberals starting the government. And all these promises that they have in there, it's the same thing all the time. Very little in there, of course, has to do with the military members themselves. There's a passing mention to health and mental health and taking care of the families and providing more housing and blah, 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 blah. We hear this all the time, and they never follow through on these promises. But this 3-to-1 rotation, this is very important, especially when we consider our current real numbers in the Canadian Armed Forces. And now, specifically, when that 3-to-1 ratio right now really only applies to the Army. As we can see from these numbers, they are saying that we cannot sustain a 2,200 person deployment in Latvia with 28,624 members in the Army. As a whole, they want to increase the armed forces by 26,000 people in order to increase this Latvian deployment by 600 people. It should give you an idea of what it takes to support and deploy these troops out there. Troops, which, by the way, are sharing equipment, because the troops going in are sharing equipment with the troops coming out. That's how bad. You've heard the stories where some of them had to buy helmets, and they fail in providing proper rations for their troops as well. Not a really good scenario. So, 1,600 members in Latvia. But really, realistically, why is the armed forces bleeding so many people? Could it be part of this woke ideology that once they get in, they find out that the warrior spirit is not there and that they have joined an organization that is bent on making sure that everyone ensures that they feel as a victim but well compensated? Because that's pretty well the aspect of all the training that they are occupying people's time with. Now, the forces, every time when they are in desperate needs, they will be employing recruit training in every place that they can. So they will be doing training out at CFLRS in St. John. They will be doing recruit training in Borden, and they will be doing recruit training in any other place that they can set up a recruiting training station. Every year throughout the summertime is basically when a lot of the reservists get trained. But in these training schools, they also put through Reg Forest people. After all, it is just basic training. And during that basic training, right, they're going to discover, oh, look, I got to do GBA plus. And they go through it. They go, my goodness, what is this? And then they will start to find out that there are a lot of initiatives in the Canadian Armed Forces that deal with making sure that all the victims are accounted for. And I'm not talking about the victims on the battlefield. There's going to be all kinds of institutions. We have a special committee set up just for Black people. That's right, because apparently people that are racialized can only be people of color. If you're the wrong color, you're not allowed to be racialized, and you're not allowed to say that you've been treated differently, unless, of course, you're part of the special class. There will come a time when the recruits are told about the COVID-19 Libby jab policy. COVID-19 vaccination status will no longer be a condition for enrollment to the CAF. So you can join without taking it. New recruits will be informed of the COVID-19 vaccine policy and will be informed that employment in certain positions or operations may require COVID-19 or other vaccinations for operational readiness purposes. Right. So the other vaccination process, that was normal. That was always there. We always expected that when we went on deployments, especially if we're going to areas that have specific diseases in that area. You would do the same thing if you're a tourist. This is normal travel stuff. You notice they had to specifically say COVID-19. They couldn't just say vaccination because of the stigma that it holds. Attestation remains a necessary mechanism. So you still have to declare. Once you've gone through your recruit training, you're going to be given the option to get this. You're going to be told how to record your attestation, whether or not you're injected. And if you're not injected, well, all we have to do is go all the way down to the bottom in Annex A and see that CAF members right, require this injection. If they want, they have to take 3 doses, right? If they want to go on any kind of career training or if they want to go on a deployment because they won't be considered useful. Do you imagine having an entire unit of people that are trained and can do their job? Ah, but we can't send them on operations because they haven't taken this injection. So how do you think that is going to affect your career if you can't actually be employed in all aspects of your job? So this is not really a method of saying, oh, not everybody has to take it. No, no. If you want to be a full member of the Canadian Armed Forces and do your job, and being able to do your job is being able to deploy anywhere, anytime, under orders to do your job. And if you can't do that, then you're not a fully effective member of the Canadian Armed Forces. And what they have done here is basically told people you will be a second class Canadian Armed Forces member until you are fully injected. And then you will be a fully effective member. So I'm sure that probably affects a lot of people deciding whether or not they're going to join. But you know what probably affects them even more is more and more of the information that is coming out regarding vaccines. I'm going to read you a little something here from X. Let's go to Scoops Magoo, where he has a rather important message for all of us. Article with analysis and package spreadsheets downloads. I will put a link to this in this piece. This package was released under order of Canada's Information Commissioner. Takeaways. Government maintains a non-password protected database housing an impressive 22,000 scientific papers and counting about COVID vaccines, much of which on adverse events. There's a link. PHAC staff were alarmed by Florida's decision to stop recommending COVID vaccination for young males in October 2022. One staffer's response, yikes! This led PHAC to review internal myocarditis statistics, revealing a 24 times elevated risk among Canadian girls aged 5 to 11. No action was taken. Staff casually email each other with regular updates to the vaccine death tally. No action taken to date. Denise Rancourt et al.'s 2023 report, which attribute 17 million global excess deaths to the COVID vaccine program, caused a stir at PHAC. The report was shared with all provincial territorial health authorities, as well as with the military and RCMP. Health Chief Teresa Tam asked for an analysis of the report deemed not credible, no action taken. By mid-2022, of the 206 death reports accumulated by PHAC, 163, 79% of them, had occurred within 30 days of injection. No action taken. As early as October 2021, PHAC determined that among the 195 fatal reports, the median time to death following injection was just 7 days. No action taken. PHAC filters out some death reports before proper assessment. January 2023. 300 is too many deaths to investigate. Need criteria to determine what should be looked at, such as sudden death, expected death. ACCA, Advisory Committee on Casualty Assessment, would be looking at deaths that can't be otherwise explained. Heart attack, stroke, etc. Almost a definition of exclusion. Example, someone found dead with no apparent cause, underlying condition. The Brighton collaboration, HWO guidelines, and casualty algorithms are used to ignore hundreds of Canadian deaths which have already been aggressively whittled down by provincial, territorial authorities, despite the fact that most COVID vaccine deaths in federal databases occur within a week of injection. That's right. So they were hiding it all. They were hiding it all. So what can we do about it? Well, first things first, don't let your friends join the military. Don't let your friends join the Canadian Armed Forces. Don't let your family members join, because there's a few things wrong with it. The first thing is that they won't help you if they hurt you with the COVID-19 injection. And secondly, all the people that pushed the abuse of authority and coercing people into that injection in the first place are still all in the military. They're all still in positions of authority, ready to violate your rights again at a drop of a hat. That's right. Because not only did they do it in the past, they will do it again and again and again until somebody stops them. But they have no ethics and morals, none whatsoever. So at the end of this, I would like you to listen to what's happening south of the border. They've got it right. And then after the outro will be a preview for a movie that's coming out in Texas, and maybe it will hit the Toronto Film Festival this summer, but I'm not holding my breath because it exposes the death and the misery that these shots have done. And the fact that the Canadian Armed Forces are still making it mandatory to get it is an absolute disgrace. And anybody who still thinks it's a good idea is a whack job, a complete whack job. You know, Michael Savage said it best. Liberalism is a mental disorder. Thanks for coming out. If you hung out to the end, I really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
You're not going to believe what I just watched on X. After 4 years of fighting the unlawful orders that came as a result of the COVID-19 mandate for the military, the Secretary of Defense has just announced his acknowledgement that this was an unlawful order and that the mandate was based on an experimental vaccine. I cannot tell you how grateful I am for this announcement from Secretary Hegseth, and I cannot tell you just all of the emotion and everything else that this brings up after 4 years of fighting this. Listen, I fought the COVID vaccine mandate for myself personally and hundreds of clients as we tried to get career bureaucrats in the military to understand and acknowledge that the Biden administration was violating federal law and violating constitutional principles, and to have a Secretary of Defense who has the courage to acknowledge this was an unlawful order is absolutely incredible. And beyond that, we are now seeing a Department of Defense that is dedicated to continuing to work on the process to restore all of us that were impacted by this unlawful order. So this is not just about reinstatement. This is also an acknowledgement that more needs to be done and careers need to be fixed. This is about restoring military members who were impacted by this, including the adverse action that was in their records and other guidance. So again, I cannot express the level of gratitude that I feel for so many people that were impacted by this and who fought alongside me and so many others to make this right. So I want to say thank you. Thank you to Secretary Hegseth. I want to say thank you to Steve Deace, and I want to say thank you to the Senior Department of Defense official that Casey Dixon, Jordan Carr, and I met with at the Pentagon just about 2 weeks ago. You see, in that meeting, we asked for the order to be declared unlawful. We suggested that Secretary Hegseth come out and make his stance clear on this because there was a lot of bureaucratic pushback happening, and there were a lot of people throughout the Department of Defense engaging in what I would call malicious compliance and trying to undermine the president's intent and his intent to make this right. So not only do we have a declaration that this was an unlawful order, which it was, we now have a statement apologizing to all of you, to all of us that were impacted by this unlawful order. And the Department of Defense is going to be issuing further guidance to clarify the process to get records fixed, as well as to give clear guidance to the Board of Corrections and Military Records to fix this. So again, I'm sorry this video is kind of raw. This is just off the cuff as this has happened. I cannot express to you the kind of impact this has had on so many, but how encouraging it is to see that the Secretary of Defense is acknowledging this was an unlawful order. This should be an encouragement to all of you who fought alongside me and put the Constitution and your oath to the Constitution over your career, your pension, or anything else. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank you very much for volunteering for this trial.
Vaccine injuries are rare and mild until one happens to you or your loved one.
You cannot walk away from this film and still be questioning that this is true.
There's information that I didn't even know about, and I've been part of this movement for the last 4 years. It's incredible.
Follow the Silenced is really our way of giving the people a voice who were completely silenced for having dared share the fact that they were injured by the COVID vaccines.
My son, my beautiful boy, heard me say to my husband, just let me die. I just need to die.
We really worked diligently to create a film for everyone, no matter where you are in your belief system with this subject.
It's a story of the human spirit. It's that we can really love each other and reach across the aisle and find community.
So it feels really amazing to be able to give them a voice, let their stories be heard.
It's moving, it's hard, it's intense, it's informational, and it's inspirational.
The film was so eye-opening to me.
The pandemic of the unvaccinated was, in fact, a pandemic of vaccine injuries.